Hi there, and welcome to the Homestead Education Podcast. Do you have a homestead, farm, or just dream of a rural life? This is a show to help you and your kids grow your own food and grow as a person. I'm your host, Kody Hanner. I'm a homesteader, homeschool mom of 6, and small town enthusiast. I was raised by an old school rancher and blessed by the grace of God to have been exposed to so much of what rural life has to offer. Join me every week to talk about homesteading, homeschooling, and growth with a homestead education. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Homestead Education Podcast. This episode is actually a part 2. If you tuned in last week, or if you haven't, you should go back and listen to it. My friend Rachel Hester and I from Whoopsie Daisy Farm are asking all the nutritional health questions that nobody's asking yet. And if they are, we want to help find those answers. So tune into last week's episode or listen to what we have to say today and see if that's something that you want to learn more about. So excited to have you guys, and I hope you enjoy our story. So, ours was a little more straightforward, especially my husband's. Mine's a little not so much. I know what's wrong with me. I don't know how to fix it.
Okay.
So, at least for me, my husband and I were both like latchkey kids. I think we're about probably, I don't know, let's see, we're probably about the same age as your husband, older than you though. We're in our early 40s.
He's actually younger than me.
Oh, is he? I thought you were younger than him. How old are you?
I'm 37.
You're 37. Okay, I'm 40.
Okay, so yeah.
So yeah, I mean, let's call it the same age,
Yeah, essentially.
Because I still want to be 30. So
yeah.
anyways, we were latchkey kids. We were literally we were fed mac and cheese. That was like a staple diet for us.
Yeah.
My family hunted a lot. I have eaten things that people will, my dad used to have a hog and frog feed every year.
Okay.
We were pig hunters. My dad had a hunting guide business, and then we even had a cattle ranch, tons of cattle. We still bought our steaks from the store, because we were in that mindset.
Yeah.
We always had a garden, but I think we only grew tomatoes. So, right. But I always struggled with my weight. That's been my big one. Now, everyone in my family, on my dad's side of the family, is pretty large, except for my dad, which was really frustrating because my dad was actually both my parents were very thin.
Okay.
And so I was kind of my brothers were huge, but they wanted their daughter to be tiny, and it just wasn't going to happen.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
Because you know me personally, I'm close to 6 foot tall, and I'm not a tiny person, and I'm never going to be.
Right.
But I struggled with my weight, and I did sports as a kid. I wasn't a lazy kid.
Right.
And I'm not a lazy adult. We're farmers.
Yeah.
We hike, we hunt, you see me at the conferences, I'm hauling booty all over that place.
Yeah, you're making me tired with how much you're moving. So. Kody, sit down.
I'm definitely getting my 10,000 steps a day. I'm super high energy and stuff. But I have fought my weight since I was really little. And my mom just didn't know how to help me. I lived off Slim Fast from the time I was 12 on.
Oh no.
Right? Let's talk about my gut health.
Right.
And I had really bad tonsil issues.
Oh.
But that was that time when they said, don't take your tonsils out, just keep treating. So I didn't.
Do you still have them?
I got them out when I was 33.
Oh, okay.
Finally. Okay. They were so bad. The infection was encapsulated inside of them.
Oh my gosh.
They said it was the worst set of tonsils they've ever seen. And this was at the Portland, main big hospital.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So anyways, I did antibiotics every other week. Every other month. From the time I was 4.
Yeah.
Until I was 33.
Yeah. So your gut biome is just not even there.
No. At this point I might, because I've actively
right. But until you
at 33, I had no gut biome. I'm sure. I drank a lot. I wasn't, not a lot, but I was a typical 20-year-old partier,
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, because the way I grew up was we were a rodeo family, and we went to rodeos and we partied. And
okay, so I did some time in New Mexico, so I'm
Yeah,
I
he
know
kind
what a real cowboy is, just for those of you in the West who understand that phrase.
of okay. Yeah,
There's
that's
the fake
my
ones and there's
my
the real
dad.
ones.
My dad
Real-
like traveled with the California Cowboys.
Okay.
We had a big cattle ranch, and so yeah, like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
grew
So
up
drinking
very.
was just part of the culture.
It was.
Yeah.
And as was the cheating and the whole bunch of other things that go along with marriage issues that like that's something my husband and I are trying to heal in ourselves right now.
Yeah.
We actually we've been married 10 years and we recently were having a conversation about not recently, it's been in the last like few years, but it was like we knew that we were going to make it work no matter what,
Yeah.
but it felt unhealthy a lot of the times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we didn't know how to, not that we were purposely trying to be unhealthy to each other, but we had never been modeled healthy relationships. So we
Right. That
didn't
was
even
just your
know.
normal. Yeah. It was just
Yeah.
your normal to not be functional.
Yeah. So we finally were like, okay, we need to figure this out. And if it doesn't feel healthy to us, we stop and figure out what doesn't feel healthy anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our marriage has like totally changed. But
Yeah.
um so anyways, like just my system was just messed up from like day one.
Yeah.
Then my dad actually ended up my dad and my brother both died of liver disease within a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, self-inflicted, 100%. I'm not
Yeah.
even,
Yeah.
but to lose both like two really formidable men in my life in a
Yeah.
year,
That's really hard.
which was the same year I married my husband.
Bless all your hearts.
Yeah, it was a hard year.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone to walk me down the aisle.
Oh,
So I got to the back of the thing. My husband was standing up at the altar. He walked back and got me and walked me down the aisle.
oh, that's beautiful
It
though.
was really sweet. But that was still,
But
like
not
we had,
what you like, but not that what you like thought as a little girl was going to happen. Like
yeah,
it was still a grief. Like you were able to redeem it, but it was still a hard thing.
yeah. So um, we were a yours, mine, and ours. We brought kids into the marriage and stuff. He was a widower, and I had had the abusive relationship before that.
Mhm.
Um, we decided we wanted to have kids together, so we had Wade the following summer.
Mhm.
I mean, we planned it, like we started trying right
Yeah.
away and had
Yeah.
Wade the next summer. That was in July. In January, he was having some heartburn like issues. And he
Okay.
just couldn't get it under control. Like they had switched his meds, he was changing the way he ate, propping himself up in bed, like the whole thing, and they just couldn't figure out what was going on, so they sent him for a CT. And his um spleen was really enlarged.
Oh, okay.
And so they're like, well, you need to go to the VA hospital in Portland and have some more testing done. So we go and do like, ultrasounds on this like weird tap machine and all this stuff. And they come in and they're like, you're an end-stage liver disease or end-stage liver failure.
Oh,
Like,
heartburn to your liver's shot. Okay.
yeah, which we believe now is actually from the burn pits in Iraq because we've done a lot of research and like we're
Oh,
like,
okay.
okay, like his eating was okay. He drank a
Yeah,
little, but it was like,
but
a
not to
couple of
that
beers on a
point.
Friday night, like that
Yeah.
type of
Yeah, and those toxins that I mean,
yeah.
we've heard stories just because my husbandand's a huge history nerd and,
Mhm.
he wanted to go in the military. His scoliosis kept him from it. So he
Um,
lives vicariously through memoirs and he's like, oh my gosh, the stuff that they had to burn has caused so many
that
issues.
and I mean, then his dad was in Vietnam, so we've got the Ancient Orange, and then my husband was a tanker, so depleted uranium. I mean, it's just who knows what's floating around in his body.
Right, right, right. So kind of like my husband, toxin upon toxin upon toxin upon
Yeah.
toxin.
And
And his
so
liver was just like, okay, I give up. I can't do it anymore.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I don't accept this answer. Like, that's not
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
Um,
You're not dying.
yeah, like we're not, they told us he may only have a year to live at that point.
Wow.
Get your affairs in order.
Wow.
I was like, I don't accept this answer. Like,
Yeah.
I have been through hell and back.
Yeah.
I finally have like my happy, and we just bought a home and we have a new baby, and our
Mhm.
kids all have a stable life now, which they didn't have when, his boys, their mom had just died, and my kids, like their dad was abusive and wasn't in the picture. And like this was right. This was what we were supposed to have. Why is this happening to us?
Right.
And I don't accept that answer. Like, So I dove really deep into natural foods, and because they said like, we heard if you eat a little more naturally, it could help your quality of life. Yeah. Yay for VA hospitals.
Right? Maybe try changing a few things that you eat. It won't work, but just give it a shot. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Like, let's make his life extra miserable because now he doesn't like get any of the things he loves. He can't take his pain medicine for his back because he was blown up 3 times in Iraq. He has this spinal stimulator.
Okay.
So like he can't take his pain medications. He can't have a beer. Like he liked having, a cigarette once in a while. He couldn't have a cigarette. Like, which not that he should have those things, but I mean it was like all of a sudden he got everything
Well,
taken away.
well, all his coping mechanisms were just stripped all of a sudden because he was told he was going to die.
Yeah,
Which,
and he only gets to eat like plain Greek yogurt on his lettuce.
oh, yuck. I wouldn't even want to do that. Ew.
He was like, I mean, he actually admitted to me recently that he was just like, I'm just done. I'm just gonna give up and let it kill me.
Mhm.
And but I was not accepting that answer. Like I went to like we were living paycheck to paycheck because he was like our only income was his VA income.
Uh-huh.
We were comfortable, but there wasn't the money for going out and buying a canner and affording organic chicken while also starting to raise our own chickens.
Well,
And
yeah, we were putting money into savings when we were eating the SAD diet. I mean,
yeah.
we lived very frugally, and then it's like, okay, we got to spend $10 a gallon on raw milk and buy, this
Mhm.
really super duper expensive meat. Okay, I guess we're doing that now.
Right. Like I actually went to his dad and asked for a loan. Like
Yeah.
this is the only way I know how to save him. I don't know if it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but
Hmm. But
and
we're
he
gonna.
pretty much was like, this isn't a loan. Here's my credit card. Get what you need.
Oh, well, that was awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's actually a picture of me somewhere. I need to find it. Like sitting in the middle of our kitchen with like chicks in a brooder, like my new canner and like all the like instructions like laid out. And I mean, like our kitchen looked like a processing plant because I mean, we just had all these things, and I had no clue what to do with any of them.
Yeah.
And I always had considered myself a
Yeah.
home cooker, and then I realized that, like, just because I make mac and cheese at home, like I was a little
Right.
bit more than that, but
There's
not
levels.
like not
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I cooked from scratch too when we first got married, but it was like I was making our own noodles and I was making our own scones and bread and stuff, but then it's like you learn just the flour that you buy at the store is already
mhm.
compromised.
Like I wasn't making our own bread, but I was definitely making biscuits for our biscuits and gravy on Sunday morning. Like
Right.
We also had at that point 5 kids. We now have 6, but I was not baking bread for 6 kids. Like you can, and you know what? I'll tell you a secret. I still don't bake bread for 6 kids because half the time they feed it to the dogs. Um, we do bake
That's fine.
we do bake bread. We bake a lot of bread, and that's like our
Uh,
like sandwich bread for lunch when we do
yeah.
meals. When we make French, like garlic bread and stuff like that. But I'm sorry, I have a 4-year-old who likes to make a 7-layer honey sandwich, microwave it, go take 2 bites while sitting in the dryer, and then feeds the rest to the dog.
Yeah, buy bread. It's fine.
Right?
No one's gonna appreciate a homemade loaf.
Right? So yes, when I go to the store every week, I buy like $5 worth of the like dollar white bread, and I'm pretty sure that 95% of it goes to the dogs. So we're good.
We're good.
It's all about compromise, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm going down this whole journey of like, we're gonna do everything from scratch. And my husband was silently deciding to like off himself.
Oh gosh.
Um, so then I was like, we need to move and buy a bigger farm. Like we were living in the high desert of Oregon. You can't grow anything in a frozen sandbox.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we had 5 acres there. We had chickens. The kids always had an extra 4-H pig, but like we weren't.
Actually,
And
like
I was like, we need to do this different. So we sold everything. We moved to Idaho. We bought our homestead. And he's like, what if I still this at this point, it had been over a year since he had been diagnosed.
Mhm.
Wasn't dead yet, so that's a positive. Um we
Yeah.
were doing he had to do scans every 6 months, and his scans were gradually showing better.
Okay.
Not out, his labs were okay, maybe a little better. Like his portal vein hypertension was getting a little better in his like ultrasounds. And so they're like, okay, like you're stable. You have what they call compensated end stage liver disease, which means your
Okay.
body is making up for what your liver is not doing.
Okay.
So, okay, well, that's a positive. And they're like, we're like, what's the
Yeah.
lifespan on that? They're like, meh. As long as it stays compensated, it could be 5 years or so. Like, I don't know. We're like,
Okay, well,
okay,
it's from 1 to 5.
yeah. So, at that point, like we'd wanted to have a second child, and my husband was like, no, like we're not having another child when I'm gonna die. And
Right.
so then I was like mourning the second child I had planned and mourning my husband who is gonna die anytime now and who has decided he hates me because he's sick. And he was just taking it out on me because I was his closest person, and I get that.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, I didn't love every minute of it. It was really hard for a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, at least we can buy a farm, set me and the kids up to have the natural life we all deserve, and
Mhm.
hopefully that'll heal you. And if it doesn't heal you, at least we're stable.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I can be on board for that. Well, then we started looking at buying the ranch, and he had a scan, and they said, like, I don't know what's going on. We don't really see a whole lot. Like your labs still aren't great. Your portal vein hypertension, like we don't even see it. Um, but we don't know. And at this point,
Mhm.
we've been eating really healthy for like a year and a half, but we were having to buy everything healthy. And we had gone down the plexus route, which actually was really helpful for his PTSD. It like mood changing like hugely
Yeah, B
because of that gut
vitamins
health
and
stuff.
PTSD go hand in hand.
Yeah,
We've learned that because Kyle has PTSD, and whenever it starts to flare up, I'm like, I am now drowning you in B vitamins because it really does help.
yeah. I start cleansing his system, which is,
Mhm.
I get him back on the plexus because he always goes, "Oh, I feel great. I don't need it anymore."
Yeah,
Yeah,
I understand
yeah.
that.
So then we have to
The fact you feel good
um,
means you need to keep feeling good. Don't stop taking it.
he's like, but it costs money. And I'm like,
That's
yeah,
fine.
that's
Yes,
fine. It's
we're
okay.
investing in you staying sane, love. I've had this conversation myself,
Yeah,
so
yeah. And yeah, he was not on board for like 90% of what we did. But at that point, he was like, okay, if I'm not like dying tomorrow, let's have another baby. Like, you still deserve what you want. Wade deserves a sibling.
Mhm.
And so then that's when I got pregnant with Branch, who is a holy terror. He is the last one for a reason. But I had never felt better at this point because I had changed all of my health. I'd started with the plexus and yeah, we started with we started using doTERRA, using the essential oils for his back pain, and like he would use that for his back pain and his sleep and mood and all that type of stuff. And then like if he'd had a day working out in the yard or something and was really hurting, then he'd take like a muscle relaxer or something.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, so we moved to Idaho, and uh, so I was 7 weeks pregnant. We drove the 12 hours up here with, it's not quite a 12-hour drive, but with the trailers and everything.
Yeah.
I get out of the car, and immediately, like, I was like bent over. Like, it felt like somebody had like hit me in the back with a baseball.
Oh gosh.
And like, I turn around, like, nothing's there. I like can't catch my breath. And we're like, what is going on? So, I mean, it was late at night. We unloaded the animals out of the trailers. We went down to the house, went to sleep. The next morning, like, I couldn't catch my breath. And, my husband's like, maybe it's allergies, like, just moving here. It's hay season here, like everybody's haying. Maybe that's what it is. So we waited like 2 days, and I was like, this isn't right.
Mhm.
And we went to I tried to go to like a walk-in clinic. They couldn't help me. Like, so, I mean, we're just moved to town. We don't have, anything established. I finally walked into this like family medicine doctor, and they did all the work and sent me up to the hospital for a set of labs. They, I mean, immediately, like I hadn't made it even out of town yet. And they're like, get back to the ER right now. You have blood clots in your lungs.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I had two pulmonary embolisms. Yeah. So this pregnancy ended up, I was on bed rest the entire pregnancy.
Mhm.
Lost like so much of my muscle tone, which I've always been in really good shape.
Mhm.
Um, then he came 7 weeks early. I was in the hospital, then he was in the NICU. Then I ended up getting I had another blood clot because they pulled me off my blood thinners too quickly. Yeah. Then I got an infection from my C-section on all my organs.
Oh my goodness.
So they wanted to go in and like scrape my organs. And I was like, I'm on blood thinners. You're not coming anywhere
You can't.
near me.
Yeah, you can't do that.
So they agreed to put me on like the strongest antibiotic like known to man. I had to do that for like 2 weeks. I mean, it literally like it was killing me. Like I was so sick. We finally, and that happened like actually 3 weeks after I had him or something. And then they got that under control. And then my body started attacking itself.
Oh,
So I wasn't digesting protein anymore. Like basically my intestines like shut down.
yeah.
So I just, not to be crass, but I had the runs
Yeah.
for like weeks. And I could like, my husband had to like help me up our front steps. I was so weak.
Oh, wow.
Um, I went back to the hospital and they ran tests. And basically I was having like, it was like an allergic reaction, but I mean, they're just like, oh yeah, that's high. So we have to do steroids. So I ended up having to stop breastfeeding at that point and go on like this really intense steroid regimen that
Mhm.
lasted almost 5 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. From that time, I gained almost 100 pounds.
I can imagine so.
Like even after stopping the steroids, they say, oh, once you stop, you'll go back down.
Oh, that's not true. Like
No.
I will tell doctors, do not give me a steroid unless it is to save my life because they rack so much havoc on my system and
Mm-hmm.
everything they say, it'll just this and it won't that. Like my body is like, yeah, we're gonna show you. I mean, steroids are not, you
Yeah.
know,
Like I went in and I've done so like extensive allergy testing and stuff like that. So I can be steps ahead of any potential allergens. Cause like I'm not allergic to something where I'm allergic to milk, just don't drink it. Like I'm allergic to yellow jackets and I'm a rancher. Like I never know when I'm gonna get stung. Like I just can't help it. So I mean I have EpiPens on hand and like we got me one step
safe.
ahead
Yeah,
of ever needing to have steroids, hopefully.
yeah.
But yeah, I gained 100 pounds and it would not stop. Like my husband, like he was doing keto. He lost 25 pounds. I gained 16.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is like I was doing
Not
hormone.
fair. It's
Yeah.
not fair.
Like
Yeah.
I was doing hormone testing. Like because I have an adrenal adenoma, like a tumor on my adrenal gland.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That can cause, I don't remember what it's called anymore, but basically like increased cortisol that can cause you to gain weight.
Yeah, I
So
was
I
gonna
was
say
like,
anything with your adrenals.
yeah, like maybe all of the steroids, like, made my tumor grow or whatever. They did all the tests. My cortisol levels are higher, but not like to the
Not
point where they think I should have my adenoma removed. So I mean, like, I was just like, I went to like the most like functional doctor I know. She's like, oh, get out of the grocery store. She buys pigs from us every year, that type of thing. And she's like, oh, honey, you don't have estrogen on your side anymore. Like, just eat meat and you'll be fine.
it's not that simple.
No, it's really not. And actually, with all the hormone testing, I actually have like through the roof estrogen levels. So there's that.
Yeah, and I mean that was kind of our experience with the guy that was local to us who was a functional person where it was like, "Oh, just this and just that, and then it will just this." And when it didn't work, he's like, "Well, then just go back to normal medicine." And I was like, "Hang on.
Mhm.
That's not the right response." Like, if you're a functional practitioner, if your initial suggestion doesn't work, then you need to go back to the drawing board and see what did I miss? Because number one, you don't have all the diagnostic tools that a hospital has. And
Mhm.
number two, like symptomology is typically what they use to make their suggestions, but symptoms can be for different reasons than you initially thought. And so when they act like that, it just really cooks my grits because I'm like, the reason why I came to you is to not get treated like this. If I want to treated like this,
Yes.
I just go to another doctor. So
There's
anyway,
actually a doctor here local to me that I'm thinking of switching to. He doesn't take insurance and stuff, so I have to pay cash for all of it.
yeah,
And I sort of have the money and I'm gonna go check him out because of that. And
yeah,
he actually does a whole weight loss like through nutrition and stuff.
yeah.
But anyways, we kind of went that route and my daughter's texting me to see if I want food. Yes, the answer is always yes.
Yes, yes, I want food.
Um No, she's making lunch. You want to know if I wanted some too. So I have to remember I'm Pacific time. So
Oh, that's right. You were before me. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
Eastern.
So and we're probably gonna be wrapping up here in a little bit. But anyways, we're 8 years out now from his diagnosis.
Hmm.
And he opted for some weight loss surgery um a year and a half ago.
Okay.
It was something that, with fatty liver, which is his official diagnosis because it's not from alcohol,
Oh, okay.
is that weight loss would heal his liver. So 2 years into after he got diagnosed, he went in and he's like, well, what about weight loss surgery? Like this could really, I feel like risk over benefit, this is the best for me.
Mm-hmm.
And we agreed, like, even though we were already starting this natural path and stuff, which we were like, no, we think this is the best route for you because this can get your weight off fast and start getting the fat out of your liver.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
told him with having an end stage diagnosis, they wouldn't pay for it.
Oh,
Yeah. So, I mean, that was depressing for him too, because like he potentially had this answer that
yeah.
they were like turning him down. So, I
Yeah.
mean, he has fought me tooth and nail on healthy food. Like I said, we grow and locally source 80% of our own food now.
Yeah.
Um, we eat very naturally, except for when we're on the road, but then we just
Well,
enjoy our
when you're on the
simplicity
road,
and don't
it's
worry about it.
yeah.
Which is part of my problem right now. But for him, he only travels with me once in a while. So he's like, heck yeah, we're eating barbecue every night. But he finally, a year and a half ago, he went back to our local doctor and was like, hey, I'm still interested in weight loss surgery. Because he'd actually gained a lot of weight just from depression and that type of stuff, even though, again, we're having the active farm and the good food and
Mhm.
all of it. And she's like, it's been like 6 years since they gave you an end stage diagnosis. She's like, I fully support this. Let's make this happen.
Oh, good.
So he was able to get approved for the weight loss surgery. They sent us to Palo Alto for like a week to get it done.
Mhm.
Um, and while they were in there, they did a visual on his liver. They did a full scope and did all his liver biopsies or labs and stuff. And according to them, he has a fully healed liver inside and out, except for a tiny bit of scarring on the edges.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
They're like, we don't know what you're doing, but we need to know like all of it. Like, tell us
Uh-huh.
everything, like to the point where his doctor from the VA is still in contact with us a year
Oh,
and a half later.
wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. She's like a top bariatric surgeon in California and does like bariatric surgeries at the pediatric hospital.
Oh, okay, wow.
Like, I mean, and she's like, I am tired of doing bariatric surgeries on 12-year-olds.
Yeah,
Like,
that's not okay.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So this is something that, at this point, he's like, I owe you all the energy back that you put into me.
And you're like, "Darn right you do."
Right? I mean, I don't want to go into all the details, but things were really hard for a minute there.
Oh, yeah, I
And
I I don't understand your story, but I do remember having some very hard conversations that flew in the face of my women should be submissive upbringing because it
oh
was
yeah,
like, "Y this is not you don't have the moral high ground here,
yeah. And I
and
mean,
you
we
need to quit it."
actually we've actually talked with two different Homestead conferences now about him and I coming and talking together to tell this
Yeah.
story.
I think you should because I have heard from
Especially
so
because
many
we're really
women.
funny together. So
You are
it's
really funny. But I heard from so many women who come to me and they'll ask me questions and I'm answering these nutrition questions and they just look off into the distance and sigh and they're like, "It's not actually for me, it's for my husband, but there's no way he would go along with this." And
well,
it breaks my heart because it's like, I've talked with Beth Daughtery about this sometimes where she's like,
mm,
if I tell my husband I want to buy that thing, at this point, he knows me, trusts me enough to where he's like, "Go buy it because you know our fine." Like we've built the
yeah,
trust over the years. And granted, I mean, I don't want to say they're old, but they're older. Like they've had more
yeah.
experience being married
Well,
than
and my
I have.
husband and I are to that point too. Like, hey, honey, I think I'm going to invest in this. He's like, if we have the money, go for it. Like,
Right. But yeah, but what I'm saying is like
yeah,
it's not something where you like walk up the aisle, you say we're man and wife now, you turn around and there's that trust just
total
already.
trust. Yeah, it just doesn't happen.
And I mean, that's one thing where it's like, I don't know if it's Disney and our culture or what, but it's like, we as women, we have this picture in our head of, A, what it's gonna be like, but then B,
Mhm.
when we come to adversity or especially a health crisis, like we just don't actually know how men think, how to get their attention, and how to motivate them to do great things. Because I
And
mean,
then society tells you if you can't figure it out, leave. That
yeah,
you're better off without
exactly.
them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, no, like behind most of the great men in history, there was a woman somewhere behind the curtain going,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you know what
I
I'm
mean, if
saying?
you
Like if
read
it wasn't their
about
mother, it was a wife or, an affair or someone
right, well,
motivating,
like
this
John
is how you change the
Adams
world.
talks about the letters that his wife
The
would send
Abigail, yeah,
him
exactly.
about
It's
what she
like,
wanted him to push in like creating the Constitution or whatever.
yeah,
So,
or Martha Washington, or
mhm,
I mean, like there were, or I can't remember which one of King Henry VIII's wives was like that for him, because I
yeah.
think it was the last one, Catherine Parr or whichever. Anyway, but I mean, like one of his last wife was very much like, "Hey, this is how we're going to run the country now," and he was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, okay." I mean, and none of the other women got to that point with him. So I mean, I think
And it's one of those things I still think like our husbands should be the head of the household, but that
yeah,
doesn't mean that they shouldn't confer with their partners
I'm a very great believer in the big fat Greek wedding quote. The man is the head and the woman is,
and
gosh
the
darn
neck.
it,
Yeah.
the neck. Because, but seriously, like if my husband says no, okay.
Mhm.
But if he says no and he's not thinking it through and it's over something I
Mhm.
really think we
I'll
should,
ask him to like go over his thought process.
yeah, and I don't do it in front of other people. I'll be like, "Hey, can we
Yeah.
talk about this later?"
Hmm.
Because you don't want to shame him in front of people, and questioning his authority in public is a shaming thing, and that's not a whole he's the head of the household thing. It's that's how men think.
Hmm.
And
So
if
that's how you show respect for them.
right, but I mean, once we're behind closed doors, I mean, I have said to my husband, "You have wonderful ideas, and this is not one of them.
Oh,
What are
see,
you
behind
thinking?"
closed doors, I've called my husband a lot worse things than that. So,
Well, for the sake, right?
right.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's also
yeah, I mean, but it's like
the
there's
way him and
ways
I
to
work
do
is we
this
show
that shows
love.
respect.
Oh, sorry, it went weird for a
Sorry.
second.
Um, Hopefully I'm
There
back
we go.
now.
Yeah. That's
The
one of the
robots were
ways
like,
him and
"Oh,
I
they're getting
show
too
love is
deep."
by razzing each other. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think as a couple, you each find that dance that works for you. Um,
mm,
for a military couple, it's gonna look different than, for a police couple, and it's gonna look different for a pastor's couple because, each couple is from a different culture, but you can still have those principles and make them work for you. And I think, that whole dynamic directly affects homesteading, and that dynamic directly affects choosing what you eat and
mhm.
what modalities you're choosing for healing. And I think people we want to compartmentalize things like, oh, my marriage has not been great, but also I want kids and I want to start a homestead. And it's like, well, darling, you if you think your marriage is on the rocks now, when the
Yeah.
pigs get out, how do
Oh,
you
yeah.
think things are gonna work? 'Cause if you don't know how to work together just in your living room watching television, how are you going to work together trying to get a
Mhm.
3,000-pound escaped four-wheel drive animal that doesn't care about your emotions? You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely. And you need to have that like understanding and trust with your spouse. Because I'll tell you what, when the pigs have gotten out, we have said some things to each other that would make the devil blush, I'm sure. But when we get back to the house, we're sitting there drinking a glass of water,
yeah.
being like, that
Like,
was
"You were
funny.
so hot when you cussed at me. That was just the best moment. I'm glad you love me. Now let's go to bed." And not to bed, I mean, like, sleep.
Yeah,
So,
because we're exhausted.
because 'cause we're exhausted.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
totally get it. Um, but yeah, I think there's just that level of respect that we've built for each other. And
Yeah,
but yeah, so he is doing great health wise. He's struggling with his
that's
weight a
amazing.
little, even after the weight loss surgery, but we're working on it. But that's when he goes, okay, like it's time for me to give you that energy back. And what he's doing with that is making our farm the farm that I dreamed of.
Oh, awesome.
Like not only like as far as production, but also like, weeding and cleaning the yard and all the things that like sometimes weren't always priority, but we have like a something at a Sunset Magazine home that looked like the Beverly Hillbillies moved in. Because I couldn't keep up on the farm and the business and the kids and the homeschooling
Oh, I
and
get it. I
everything
actually
while
got a
he
dollar
went
for every
through.
time someone asked me to visit the farm, and I'm like, when my husband is functioning, consistently, then yes, absolutely. But until that
Mhm.
time, we are maintaining. We are not at the point where we can inspire anyone to do anything other than
Right.
just stick with it. So,
Luckily, because we have the teens that help out and we have older teens that come and help too,
mhm,
um, usually it's not terrible. Like I'd have our friends over, and most of the time I would let somebody else come with the caveat that this is a working farm.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so he's doing good, but now I'm feel like I'm probably facing my worst health that I ever have.
Mhm,
And
yeah.
it's been a combination of all these things that I kind of told you about. I ended up when he had his weight loss surgery at the same time I went on one of the GLP drugs for diabetes. I don't have diabetes, but it was like let's just control my sugars and everything. And I actually lost 65 of the 100 pounds I'd gained.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that was really like positive, but it
Yeah.
wreaked havoc on my stomach. And it was really expensive. I was paying like $300 a month for it. And that was
Oh,
even
God.
after my insurance.
Yeah.
And I got to the point recently where I was like, I just can't afford it anymore. It's really bad for my system, and you're only allowed to take it for 2 years anyways. And I'm at like 20 months. So I have to go off of it. And
Well, but what
immediately,
that tells me is if you're taking yeah, what that tells me is if you're taking a medication that's supposed to increase your sensitivity to insulin receptors, that means your sugar handling is all off, which sugar handling is typically directly related to your adrenals.
yeah. So I'm actually right at this moment, I'm in a huge transition on what I'm doing with like I went off those meds and I craved sugar like you would not believe. Like, I mean,
Oh.
yeah, and then I've been on the road too, and it's like I've been on the road in the South, which is insanely hot for me.
Yeah.
So I'm like eating ice cream and just anything to like feel comfortable and cool and satisfied. And I've put on like 20 of those pounds, and I'm like, this is just so frustrating that I mean,
Yeah.
as soon as I go off the meds, like, and I'm not sitting here being like, I went off the pet meds and I've been eating tomatoes and gaining weight. No, I was eating ice cream. Like, I'm not even
Right.
denying it, but it's like an insatiable, like, I can't get enough.
Well, but I mean, like 6 months postpartum, yeah. I mean, I was just hit with this craving for like a cookie, and I'm not the kind of girl where I'm like, have never been the girl. I'm like, I had a bad day. I'm gonna sit on the countertop and eat a pint of ice cream. That's never been me. But I was like,
Like, bring on the
I need,
tacos, though. Like, I'll sit on the couch and eat some tacos.
yeah. I was a popcorn girl. Like, give
Yeah.
me all the popcorn. So, but I was just craving that fast burning, sugary carbohydrate stuff, and I gained 60 pounds in like 2 or 3 months, and went to my midwife, and I was like, I'm not fitting in any of my clothes. Like, I thought
Mhm.
breastfeeding made you thin. Like, my hormones are all over the map.
Yeah.
Like, I can't function because I'm so tired.
Hmm.
And she did some testing, which, and I never had these particular tests done, but I tested positive for autoimmune and such alarmingly low vitamin D. She's like, you're on medication now.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, well, can I try like cod liver oil? I had to take, and I still take 11 capsules of cod liver oil every single day, which it's in capsules. So, but I'm
For those
determined.
listening, I just gagged.
She did. It was kind of dramatic too. But for me, I just know my system. Like, I don't know if I have the MTHFR mutation, but like if it's a medication that has a list of side effects, I will have all of them and a few
Oh,
extra ones. So for me, I have no like moral high ground by avoiding medication. It just doesn't work for me. Like
yeah. I
so
can't give my son medications. It's like his body doesn't like flush them out. Like he starts taking a vitamin and can't tie his shoes. Like it's,
yeah. So which might be the MTHFR mutation. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
I haven't. We'll circle back to that one day.
yeah, it's basically where your liver cannot process isolated chemicals. So like a vitamin where it's just one isolated vitamin, your body just doesn't know what to do with it. So you have to take stuff in the whole form. So like, taking a vitamin C capsule is not going to work. You need to take it with its cofactors. So,
Okay. I'll
um,
look into that. So yeah, like I think I'm at the worst I've ever been now. My weight is out of control. I know that like my sugars are messed up and my gut is messed up and all those things. And so I am starting a little bit of a journey right now to try, I don't even know what yet.
Yeah. Well,
Currently,
just fix your own health because you've been putting so much into your husband,
mhm,
and then your body's finally like, okay, he's fine. Now I can crap out because I've been
yeah.
basically keeping this. Because that's what happened with me is I was so focused on Kyle, and then we got pregnant by accident because we didn't think we could have kids
Oh,
because
wow.
his was so shot after the yeah. There was I can't
Congratulations, because your baby's gorgeous.
thank you. I do like him. Yeah, no, it's so it was funny because I didn't know that the herbs we were taking that summer for joint pain and inflammation because we were working so hard. It
Also
was
helps with fertility.
oh yeah. Just I did not know that. I just thought we were stressed and our muscles were working because they were lubricated. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And now we have this beautiful boy.
See,
So
we were like the exact opposite. We were like, I think we want to have a baby. Bam, the stick turned pink.
that's how my
Either
cousin is.
blue or
She thinks
whatever.
I want a baby, and the next section she's pregnant. I'm like, I did not get those genes.
Yeah.
So, but with the baby, but we had the baby, and my pregnancy was like, my midwife was like, this is a textbook
Right.
pregnancy. You're doing great. Like, you're gonna have a textbook delivery. We did a debriefing afterwards because I ended up in the ER shortly afterwards due to
Mm,
stuff. And
yeah.
so I had to go see her 3 days after the delivery instead of the normal 6 weeks. And thank God we did because I was able to kind of debrief everything because I was like, I studied midwifery. Like I know how this is supposed to go. I knew all the tricks and tips and everything that you're supposed to do. And I did all of them. And it was like I thought I was gonna die at one point. And I was like, what the heck? And she was like, this was not typical. Like we were all shocked that you weren't going the way you thought we were going to.
Mhm.
We weren't doing what the textbook said. So, um, my postpartum recovery, I'm just now getting to where I feel like I'm actually healing. But
I'm 4 years out and don't feel 100% right, but this was my
well,
worst one. Like the
yeah.
depression afterwards and stuff was
Oh my
insane.
gosh. Yeah. I was like, I should not be having postpartum depression. There's no reason for me to have postpartum depression. So, I mean, again, I have a little larger arsenal than the average Joe. So, I mean, I had already prepped to do more things. Like I did a combination of traditional Chinese medicine and African postpartum care called Amogu. I did belly binding, like I ate
Oh,
special
wow.
foods. I avoided cold, like I did all the things and I was still having issues. So we had to learn even more than just the traditional stuff about, and in my case, because I started doing biofeedback too, and the practitioner was like, it wasn't like the date of going into labor. Like the labor in and of itself was not the issue. The issue was all the stress you've had in the last 10 years and all the stress I was carrying in my hips because, women, the stress starts here, it goes to our shoulders and then it goes to
Mhm.
our hips.
I'm
So
starting
like
to look into some of those somatic workouts.
do it.
The somatic workouts with your hips.
Yeah, well, I couldn't even do like the
Mhm.
the physical therapy stretches. And I would tell them like I cannot do these stretches. And they're like, well, just work at it. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's not that I don't want to, is I actually can't. So
Mhm.
I found this massage therapist who does a combination about 15 different modalities. And when she worked on me the first time, she's like, no, you actually couldn't do those stretches because your fascia was so tight. You were like the issue was your left hip, but your right hip was feeling it. And so basically just learning how like it wasn't the actual birth itself that was the issue. It was all of the stuff leading up to the birth. If I had been able to metabolize and digest and process all that stuff, because I was focusing on myself, my birth would have gone a lot differently. But I didn't even know to do that because as women and wives and mothers,
They
we
don't
always
teach.
you don't do that. You don't go, I'm going to have a baby now. No stress. We're just going to procreate and that's it. We don't do that. We're like, we just don't even think about that. So
So yeah, I mean, where like we're at in our story is, Ron's ready to get out there and tell everybody, thank God for good food and stubborn wives.
that's a good type. That's a good title.
Yep. And that is his story that he's ready to tell, but he wants us to do it together. So that's something we're really excited for. But now I'm going down a new journey of my health at
Mhm.
40 with weight gain, with knowing what I've done to my body over the years. And so that's kind of where I was really excited to start having this conversation with you and share it with our
Yeah.
audiences.
Yeah.
Is you and I know, we know in our hearts that we are
Yeah.
feeding our bodies like probably 90% the best things that we could
Yeah,
possibly
probably
be
the
putting
best
in
food
them.
we can get on the planet at this
Yeah,
point.
the best food, the best supplements. We're making all the right choices. We're playing in the dirt and getting our micro happy gene.
Right.
I mean, we're doing all the right things. And then, both of us, we're looking into alternative things. The machine that you spoke about, I've looked into, infrared therapy and cold plunges and which ones do you follow and where do you find the time to do them all?
Yeah,
And but
yeah,
yet here we are
right,
saying we're still not 100%.
right,
And we're not questioning the food.
right,
We're just questioning what part of that are we missing where our
right,
bodies can benefit the most from that food.
right, right. Yeah, and I think, it's so hard now where the masses figured out in 2020 that he who shouts the loudest is right. And
Hmm.
so I mean, I made a post on raw milk a while ago and someone commented and was like, I'm gonna get crucified, but I do low temp pasteurize my goat milk just because I like the flavor. And I was like, not on my page, you're not getting crucified for that because I mean, if you thought it through and you know it works for you and you know the chemist again, I'm a
You
an
know,
extra.
when we first got our first cow,
Mhm.
but yes, we will always do a cow because there's six of us, and I just can't milk that many goats or sheep or whatever it is that you're
Right,
you're wanting me to
right.
do sheep. No. um,
I don't care what you milk. Sheep just work for me.
right. And
And
you know
Kyle
what?
can't even drink sheep milk right now. He's drinking camel milk. So
Yeah, and it's every family's different, and that's what I think is the
yeah,
important part to we actually have three milk cows.
yeah.
So
I own a
um
milk cow. I won't ever own three, but I own one because there's a whole other discussion there. But I think, yeah,
yeah.
what you're saying is like, you know, I
Um
I want people to know that there is sheep milk available simply because in my
mhm,
story, doing the deep dive into the
mhm,
different types of milks and my ethno biodiversity,
mhm.
my maiden name, when I looked it up, it's from a region in Poland that's known for sheep milk cheese.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, I thought that was odd, and seafood, which I'm like, yes, I'm justified. Um, you know, so and Kyle's microbiome and system is completely different. Like, he needs camel milk right now. So we're
Yeah.
shipping that in from Missouri and it's not cheap, but you know,
Oh.
there's new I think like we walk into this lifestyle and we hear the big buzzwords and the big names and the big organizations saying, if you just make sourdough and don't get Wonder Bread, you will feel better. And if you just switch this kind of salt, and if you just do this, and if you just do that.
Mhm.
And I do think for a lot of people, when they just do that, they do feel infinitely better. But when you've been through decades of trauma,
Mhm.
then your body needs a little more TLC. And I think, like in Kyle's case, where we did make the switch from the sad diet to the wholesome fats, what we learned through that, where his gallbladder just went on the fritz for a long
Mhm.
time. It was like, okay, well, his body's saying this is a little too fast and a little too intense. So what else do I need to learn to support him so that he can eat this way?
Mhm. And I think you really hit the nail on the head with the trauma. I think we're a little frozen. Okay. The nail on the head with the trauma is that it's not just
Yeah.
like trauma in what we ate, trauma in our medical, trauma in our lives, physical, mental, whatever the trauma
Yeah.
is, has like destroyed our systems that we have an opportunity to
Yeah,
fix
I
right
mean, because PTSD, because, yeah, because if you have PTSD because you were exploded 3 times,
now.
I mean,
Hmm.
your body's just chemistry is just different from someone who grew up eating scrambled eggs and was homeschooled and went to college and found his love and got married and got a homestead and started milking a cow. Like it's just two different chemistries
Yeah,
at that
it
point
is.
in their gut. And so you have to adjust your strategy accordingly.
Yes. So now at this point, Rachel and I have something really exciting for you guys. This was our conversation to get all of your wheels turning, to get you asking all the questions that we have been asking. Now,
Yeah.
Rachel has dove deep into the research. I have dove deep into how to pursue a natural homegrown life and make it work for your family. And we would like to take our knowledge, our friends' knowledge, and provide some answers for you guys.
Mhm.
So this is actually going to be the first of, so, ours was a little more straightforward,
Mhm.
but especially my husband's. Mine's a little not so much. I know what's wrong with me. I don't know how to fix it.
Okay.
So, like, at least for me, like my husband and I were both like latchkey kids. I think we're about probably, I don't know, let's see, we're probably about the same age as your husband, older than you though. We're
Actually,
in our early 40s.
he's actually younger than me.
Oh, is he? I thought you were younger than him. How old are you?
I'm
Not
37.
You're 37. Okay, I'm 40.
Okay, so yeah.
So
So
yeah, I mean, let's call it the same age,
yeah, essentially we
because I
are.
still want to be 30. So
Yeah.
anyways, we were latchkey kids. We were literally like, we were fed mac and cheese. Like that was like a staple diet for us.
Yeah.
My family hunted a lot. Like I have eaten things that people will, I mean, like my dad used to have a hog and frog feed every year.
Okay.
We were pig hunters. Like that was my dad had a hunting guide business, and
Yeah.
then we
Did
even
you
had a
enjoy
cattle
today's
ranch,
episode?
tons of
If
cattle.
so,
We
please head
still got
over
our
to your
pigs from the
favorite
store,
podcast player and leave a comment and review.
Yeah.
because we were in that
This helps
mindset.
me to know what you're
Yeah.
enjoying
We
and
always had a
helps others
garden, but I
find an
think we only
episode
grew
that
like
can help
tomatoes.
them.
Right.
So,
Hey guys, it's Kody
um,
here.
and
Wow, does
then, but
Rachel
I always
have
struggled
an
with my weight.
amazing
That's been
story?
my big one.
You know,
Now, everyone in
her
my
husband's
family, on my
facing
dad's side
some
of the
really
family, is
intense
pretty
medical
large,
stuff,
except for
and
my dad,
she's
which was really
had
frustrating
some
because my dad was
real
actually kind of,
challenges
both my parents were
nutrition
very thin.
with her
Okay.
nutritional
So I was
health.
kind of like
Now, I
my
hope you
brothers were
guys
huge,
had
but they
some
wanted
really
their
great
daughter to be
laughs with us
tiny,
today,
and
and that
it just
you'll
wasn't going to
tune in
happen.
next week to hear
Oh,
my whole
weird.
story,
Yeah.
and then
Because I mean, me personally,
listen
I'm
as Rachel and
close
I
to
start
six
to do
foot
a
tall,
deep dive
Yeah.
and like
into
I'm not a tiny person, and I'm
um,
never going to be.
Homestead Nutritional
Right.
Health.
But I
If you
struggled with
guys
my
have any
weight, and
questions that
I
you
did
want us
sports as
to
a
answer
kid. I
or that
did,
you'd like
I
us to do a
wasn't
deeper
a
dive
lazy
on,
kid,
please feel
and I'm
Right.
not a
free to
lazy
email
adult. I
myself
mean, we're
No,
at
you're
farmers.
not.
hello at
Yeah.
We hike, we
thehomesteadeducation.com,
hunt,
or
I mean,
you
you
can
see
reach
me at
out
the
to Rachel on
conferences, I'm
social
hauling
media.
booty
She
all over
has
that
Whoopsie
place.
Daisy
Yeah, you're
Farm,
Like,
making me
and I
tired
will
with
be
your
linking that in
moving.
the show notes. Can't
Like,
wait
Cody, sit
to
down.
I'm
You're
connect
like,
with
no,
definitely
you.
no, no.
getting my 10,000 steps a day. Like I'm
Yeah.
super high energy and stuff. But, like I have fought my weight since I was really little.
Mhm.
And my mom just didn't know how to help me. Like I like lived off Slim Fast from the time I was like 12 on.
Oh no.
Right? Like let's talk about my gut health.
Right.
And I had really bad tonsil issues.
Oh.
But that was that time when they said, don't take your tonsils out, just keep
Oh.
treating. So
Oh, you still have them?
I got them out when I was 33.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Finally,
Okay.
they were so bad. The infection was encapsulated inside of them.
Oh my
They
gosh.
said it was like the worst set of tonsils they've ever seen. And this was at the Portland, like, main big hospital.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, anyways, I did antibiotics every other week,
Oh
or
god.
sorry, every other month. I mean, from the time I was like 4
Yeah.
until I was 33.
Yeah. So your gut biome is just not even there.
No, well, at this point I might because I've actively
Yeah,
worked
right,
on
right,
it.
right. But
But
until
yeah,
you
at
understood
like
it was
33,
not
I
there.
had no gut biome, I'm
Mhm.
sure. I was also, I drank a lot. I wasn't, not a lot, but I mean, I was a typical 20-year-old partier.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because like the way I grew up was like we were a rodeo family and we went to rodeos and we partied and
Okay. So I did some time in New Mexico, so
yeah,
I
you
know
had
what a real cowboy is, just for those of you in the West who understand that phrase.
okay. Yeah,
There's
that's
the fake
my
ones and there's
my
the real
dad.
ones.
My dad like
Okay.
traveled with the California Cowboys.
Okay.
We had a big cattle ranch and so yeah, like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
grew
So
up
drinking was just part of the culture.
it was.
Yeah.
And as was the cheating and the whole bunch of other things that go along with marriage issues that's something my husband and I are trying to heal in ourselves right now.
Yeah.
We actually we've been married 10 years and we recently were having a conversation about, not recently, it's been in the last like few years, but it was like we knew that we were going to make it work no matter what,
Yeah.
but it felt unhealthy a lot of the times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we didn't know how to, not that we were purposely trying to be unhealthy to each other, but we had never been modeled healthy relationships. So we
Right. That
didn't
was just your
know.
normal. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
just your normal to not be functional.
Yeah. So we finally were like, okay, we need to figure this out. And if it doesn't feel healthy to us, we stop and figure out what doesn't feel healthy anymore.
Yeah.
And our marriage has like totally changed. Thank you for joining me today at the Homestead Education, and I hope that I have given you something to think about this week. To help others find me, please comment and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. You can also follow me on Facebook at the Homestead Education and Instagram at homestead_education. Do you have questions that you would like answered or just want to say hi? Please email me at hello@thehomesteadeducation.com. Until next time, keep growing!